The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Monday, the 14th day of June, 2021. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications and Linda's. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Michaela in Kales. How are you today?
Good morning. I am good. How are you?
I'm smiling. I'm okay.
How was your weekend?
Well, you know what? I don't think my weekend was as fun as many Bermudians, according to the timeline, but well, you know what? Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one for you today, as we have Carla John stopping by to discuss diversity and symbolism. The Daily Play is a Who Said It, so Kales is guessing the author of a famous quote. So, how was my weekend? I almost feel like trying to figure out how your weekend was, because it was Rosé, Saturday,
Yes, it was Rosé Day on Saturday. So normally there's like a really nice Rosé Day party, but didn't happen. So hubby and I just went to Harry's, which I love, outside on the patio, and they have this rosé that I'm obsessed with. So we just chilled out there for a little bit, and it was just very relaxing. Like, I feel like the older I get, I'm getting a little bit boring because I'm just like all week. I just want to relax all weekend. I don't want to do anything. Like, I have my house cleaned on Friday, so I don't have to do any of that. And I really just want to like chill out, and that's what I do.
That's what weekends should be. I mean,
Yeah.
the crazy thing is we all look forward to weekends, and then we realize we end up doing more work on weekends than we, plan to do or than we want to do. But yeah, first off, I want to touch on Good Day Bermuda today. I try to get the girls revved up. They were talking about Wantley House, I think it's called. It was
the house on Push Street.
Yes, right on Princess Street. Yeah, house that was owned by one of the founders of Barclay, and
right.
Interesting conversation around that. So if you haven't seen Good Day Bermuda, go check that conversation out, folks. It was very interesting as pertains to what to do with that building. But there's a lot that happened in Bermuda over the weekend, and we can't ignore that. I really want to touch on the statement from the leader of the opposition, Cole Simons, who pretty much is saying open the economy. I could not agree more.
Yeah.
And the issue of the government pushing back the quarantine extension. I have issues with that, but we have to discuss the situation that Leanna's probably going to touch in her news break. But the raft ups, the being called raft ups, my eyes didn't necessarily see raft up. I just saw a bunch of boats in a tight space, using language that I saw boats in a space.
Wow.
Well, audience, I mean, when you see these videos, when you look at the pictures, what are your thoughts? Like, what are your thoughts, Kales?
My thoughts are, I really think that if people who have boats or people who like to go out on boats, I love to go out on boats. If people don't like the current rules, that's totally fine. Absolutely. However, don't put yourself in a situation where there is video evidence of you breaking the law in a pandemic where you can get fined. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, if I was invited out on a boat, honestly, the first thing I would ask the person is, are you planning to raft up next to people? Because I'm just not feeling that. I'm not feeling that because I don't want to be around a bunch of people right now. I don't want to be around a bunch of people without masks. And frankly, I'm going to just say this. I don't want to be around a bunch of unvaccinated people. I don't. So if I don't know that you're vaccinated and it's I don't want it. I don't want it.
I mean, I'm on the total opposite as a, lawbreaker myself, with conscription. I actually, I'll say this much, and I want to quote Dr. King, because it's only right. But, I believe it was Dr. King who said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, one has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws.
Yeah.
Right? So as I preface what I'm about to say, I want to put in context Dr. King, what he was saying. And so I think the mess that has been created by the way the government has handled this has created this space where people feel like the laws are unjust. And when it comes to unjust laws, I feel like the people need to respond in a manner that they feel is in their best interest. So while I may not necessarily agree with what they're doing, I definitely support their right to protest in a manner, of course, that goes against what they feel is an unjust law. So I smile not because I want to see people getting fined or going to prison or whatever the penalties may be. I smile because, we're talking 15 years ago almost that, Bermudians Against the Draft, we were breaking laws in what we believe was in the best interest of us and Bermudians. I feel like, yes, you have some people that are just out there want to party. You have other people saying, look, I'm living my life. You allowed such and such to do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it too. So what I will say is I feel like, Kales, the government, and when I say government, I'm talking about the premier and his cabinet, have created a mess. And now the Bermuda Police Service, not the premier, has to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that take. Like I said last week when we were talking about this, I think the rule is silly. I do. I'm just not going to be the person who's going to be out there in the melee when the police roll up. Like I'm just not going to be that person. Yeah. But at the same time, I just feel like enough is enough. Enough is enough. We've got to get back to normal. We do, we do. And the thing is, like, you and I, like I said last week, we could rent the Zara. We could be like, we're having a party on the Zara next week, 75 people, it's at capacity. There really is no difference between us having a party on the Zara with 75 people unmasked and, 2 boats, 3 boats with 25 people on each boat having a low vibe at the same time. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the same thing. One is okay, one is not.
Yeah. It's definitely a messy situation, and obviously Leanna will probably speak about it in her news break, but it looks like the Bermuda Police Service were there. They did capture video themselves, and I guess they'll be making an arrest coming up. Now, it's not the arrest, it's about how do people respond to the arrest. Are they going to create more legal, like a lawyer's going to get involved and say, is a precedent's going to be set? Like, hold on, you cannot charge my client based on da da da. Like, this is Bermuda's in a very interesting space in dealing with this. Let's go to some comments. Sam Cat Place says it was inevitable and people are tired. Monica Dunstan says it was wrapped up central this weekend with a smile. She goes on to say, I'm with you, Jamal. Teresa Brantano says, I understand desires to retaliate, but wasn't this akin, I'm guessing she means, to what children do? What are your thoughts on that, Kales?
I mean, I get where she's coming from, but at the same time, people have had enough. One kind of party, if you have the money to rent out a luxury boat, is okay. But if you have your own boat and you call 2 of your friends and you all get together, that's a problem. Yeah. So I get why people are frustrated. I absolutely understand it.
Yeah. Sam Cat plays exactly, Jamal. The government created this mess. Tamara Richardson says, I'm with Jamal and been there since May 2020. Let's get on with life with sensible measures that make the most sense for all, not select groups of exemptions. Let me respond to that, because at the end of the day, I'm at the point, and I think many of us at the point that this virus is here. It's
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Right.
There's been HIV, there's the flu. Every year people decide to get the flu shot, people decide not to get the flu shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at that place with the pandemic virus, the COVID-19 virus, coronavirus, sorry. I think that's where we are with it. I think it's here to stay. Now we probably need to figure out how best to live with it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think people, that's where the frustrations lie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we were conversing about this last week in a group chat that we're both in. And I think over the past year and 3 months or so now, so 15 months, there's been fear, right? But there doesn't seem to be any, okay, this is what it is. This is reality. How are we going to live with this moving forward? Because COVID is not going anywhere. My husband and I just had this conversation. COVID is not going anywhere. We can't find ourselves back in a situation where the island is shut down. Schools are shut down. Like, I had a conversation with my 12-year-old son because he didn't get a great grade on his math test. And you know what he said to me? He goes, Mommy, I really tried, but COVID has really messed up how I learn. And at first I thought he was, being silly. And then I sat back and I said, you know what? He's had multiple disruptions this year.
Yep.
So he's not going to do his best. And it sucks. And he at 12 is like, you know what? I really tried, Yeah. And so for me, I'm just like, we got to figure out how to live with it because it's not going anywhere. And like we talked about last week or the week before, when we talk about Bermuda being open and all of that, like either we're going to be open or we're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It can't be like trying to straddle the fence. We can't have another year of no tourism because hotels are going to collapse. Jobs are going to go away forever.
They're almost pretty much there. Let's go back to the comments. Charles H. Jeffers too says, I disagree with the premise that the law is unjust. I think the government's rule re-raft-ups is to protect people from themselves. If everyone on those boats had a valid safe key, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I think that's part of the problem, Charles. And I think that's where I think the divide, the separation is. One is it's pretty much subjective. What is an unjust law? And we're not in a position to tell people. Like, there are people that thought that conscription was not an unjust law, right? I'm not in a position to tell people what's unjust to them and what's not. I cannot tell you that, if you own a boat, right? And you've seen others benefit, right? Like last week for their boat, but you can't. I am not in no position to tell them that their argument is unjust, right? So I think that's part of the issue right there. We can't agree on what's unjust versus what is. Then the second part about that is a valid safe key. Again, I think Tamara Richardson touches on it right here. Like, Charles, that sounds more like control, right?
Yeah.
I think this is part of the problem is I may not agree with people, but one thing I've had to do as I've gotten older is understand people, right? I've had to say, you know what? Let me try to put my personal feelings aside or what I believe is best, and let me see what this person means or what they're trying to do. I know what I feel is unjust, but I'm not here to put my beliefs on these people. I'm here to try to figure out how can we get past this together.
Yeah.
Right? So that at the end of the day, as Michaela was saying, we can live in a post-COVID world, understanding that the virus isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, but the thing about it is we have to remember this, okay? They ban a raft up, but we can have a party with 50 people. I can have a party right now somewhere outside, nobody has on a mask, with 50 people. So really, what is the difference? Like we said, if 2 or 3 boats and it's 50 people total, I don't know how many people were out there. But really, what's really the difference here? That's why when we talk about it being unjust, some of the rules make sense, some of them not so much. And it doesn't seem like it's built in mind to live with COVID.
Yeah.
Forward.
Michelle White Kills.
Sure, people can show frustrations, but we don't know if this was a group of vaccinated or at least tested people. No way would you find me there in that mess, but I understand. That's exactly what I was saying at the beginning.
Yeah. Dijon Simmons says, where's the strategy to moving beyond the pandemic? Well, Dijon, In fairness to that question, which is a good question, we did reach out to the premier and his people back in the early May. And the idea was for the premier to come on this show to actually discuss with the audience, right, what the post-pandemic strategy and plan is. The premier, with various communication, has yet to respond or his people either yes or no. So that said, keep in mind the governor and her people did, and they've appeared since. The premier is not interested in being in a space based on that to have these discussions with Bermudians, and I think that may be part of the problem.
Yeah,
Maybe part of the problem that David Burt, the premier, is not willing to be in situations that he can't control, and this is part of the issues that people have with how he's dealt with it. Now, keep in mind, a lot of folks, and I'm gonna say it because I'm petty like that. A lot of people out there complaining and having issues about the premier right now and how the government has handled this. A lot of you were cheering and the biggest fans last year this time. A lot of you went to the polls for him. Not this guy. Not this guy. The same government I see today is the same one I saw last year. The same way they handled it last year is that what's happened is the people have gotten tired. They finally realized, no, I don't agree with this.
Yeah. I think the difference between last year and this year, I will say, is last year everything was new. I think no one really knew what we were doing. So to be honest, I wasn't very critical last year because I felt like, you know what, this is new waters we're chartering or whatever, or new territory. But over a year on, it's like, okay, what's the strategy? How are we going to move forward? Like the opposition leader said, how are we going to open up the economy? Because we got to open up the economy.
Oh,
we want people to come here. We need to make it attractive. We can't have them standing in the hot sun for 3 hours waiting to get a test.
Running out of time. Let's go through some more comments. Tamara Richardson Kills.
Sure. We are pretending that this is about safety. It's been pretty clear since Gulf. It's about control. And that is why ultimately the people will not meekly follow along.
And I think this is what we have to understand when we're talking about this. Like when you've seen the exceptions made for whether it was it rugby and golf and sail GP and the robot, it doesn't look good. We have to understand this, folks.
Yeah.
We have to understand the optics of these events do not look good. They don't make the people feel good. And it's, you cannot ignore people's feelings.
And it doesn't help that the people generally were overwhelmingly white people in all three of those events. So that doesn't help either.
Correct. Sam Cat Play says that's part of the problem. It's discrimination. True story is who's going to suffer now? The children. DeJohn Simmons says the law isn't unjust. The prejudice of how the law is used. And I think that goes to what you just said as well. Charles H. Jeffers II says Tamara Richardson, it might sound like control, but if only impacted them, then I'd say go for it. But this potentially doesn't just impact those who were there. Amanda Kelly Kills.
Sure. If more people on the boat/party look like us, would we put the same energy into our objections? Just asking and watching. That's an interesting point of view.
DeJohn Simmons says, same prejudice of how all of a sudden videos circulated on social media can't be evidence. Email, Facebook, WhatsApp, all social media. How are the contents being received? And let's just end it with this comment, Kales, from Renee Charlene Simmons.
Exactly. There's no plan. If they are putting rules and regulations in place, they need to strategize and research the rules before implementing them, because it's the rules that don't cover the majority, which is causing the great divide. Yes.
How they're applying the rules. And I think that's been the consensus. Let's bring Leanna in. Obviously, Lee has seen her fair share. Lee, it's been quite a weekend. It's been quite a weekend.
It's been a very eventful weekend, and good morning, guys. I have to say, my only opinion on this, I have to weigh in with Tamara Richardson. I totally agree with her statement, and I just feel like the buck keeps moving. It just keeps moving, and people were tired. People were tired. We want to get back to some sort of normalcy. And again, when we see things being made for one group of people and not made for the other, of course, people are going to they're going to rebel against it. It's that simple. Yeah. We've seen it in history, so I don't see how this is any different.
Yeah, I see another divide as well. I don't know if you guys see this. Not only a racial divide, but I see a divide in terms of age, right? It seems like older people are more or less like, let's comply, and younger people it's almost like what you see in the US. The younger people are really pushing the envelope on this, right? And they're saying no, like, nah, you're that generation where your parents fought for everything, you ain't done nothing, but we're coming back. Like it just
Yeah.
seems that way based on what I see on social media. I don't, it could be just me trying to look for trouble. Lee, let's go to the news break. Over to you. I mean, it happened.
Thanks, Jamala, Michaela, and good morning to everyone who's tuned in with us, both near and far. I hope everyone is having a great start to this beautiful Monday morning and looking forward to the upcoming week. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break. Now, a lot of news to get through today. Here's a look at what took place over the weekend. A 54-year-old man has died after an apparent domestic dispute on Saturday. Now, according to police, an investigation has been launched into the death, which is said to have happened after reports of a domestic incident at a house in Hamilton Parish. The victim was said to be unconscious when police and paramedics arrived at the home in My Lord's Bay Lane just before 3 p.m. The man was rushed to hospital but later pronounced dead. A spokesperson said that anyone with any information on the incident should call 211 or 295-0011. Meanwhile, government has once again postponed the date for making unvaccinated travelers to Bermuda quarantine for 2 weeks at their own expense. Now, the measure was originally due to come into place on June 6th, but was put back to yesterday. Put back yesterday, sorry. However, now the controversial quarantine order looks likely to come into place around June 24th, the date government wants to fully reopen the economy. Minister of Health Kim Wilson said in a statement that they continue to work on the necessary amendments to finalize the quarantine order as it pertains to mandatory quarantine. She said that the government wants to assure that they get it right in order to best protect Bermuda from dangerous coronavirus variants. Now, Premier David Burt, on the other hand, said that the goal is to end local restrictions in Bermuda. With few new cases over the past 2 weeks, the Premier stated that full effort must be at the border. The implementation of the new border restrictions are said to coincide with the full reopening of the economy, which will now be no later than June 24th. Bermuda welcomed the first in a series of summer flights between Bermuda and the Azores yesterday afternoon in true island form. Fire trucks showered the blacktop on the runway at Alafuade International Airport, while airport staff and crew greeted the SATA Azores airline flight from Ponta Delgada. Now, the flight departed the island for Ponta Delgada shortly before noon. The next direct Azores flight will take place on June 27th, with the service to operate weekly throughout July and August. Minister of Transport Lawrence Scott said earlier this month that the flight would help to increase travel between the island and Europe. In addition to the Azores flights, Mr. Scott said that the ministry was exploring air service opportunities in the Caribbean and the Far East. The Bermuda Police Service say that they are aware of the video clips circulating on social media showing the raft up with several individuals in attendance. Now, the Bermuda Coast Guard crew on patrol attended the scene and that the event was shut down and the boats involved dispersed. The Coast Guard team took further action to ensure that the boats did not move to another location and the activity resumed. The identities of individuals they say involved have been recorded. Now, the Coast Guard is now collaborating with the BPS to prepare a file to be sent to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, which they say will make a determination on any possible further action. Rumors circulated over the weekend about a potentially dangerous bacteria in the water at Clearwater Beach. However, officials have said that there is no evidence to support the information. A Ministry of Health spokesperson said that it conducts a routine seawater sampling program on all of the island's beaches. Now, the most recent samples taken from Clearwater North and South were taken earlier this month on June 7th, and there is no proof that there is an issue with the bacteriological quality of the seawater in Clearwater, meaning that the beach is safe. Now, it is unknown where and why the rumors had started in the first place, but the ministry claimed it would continue to monitor the water quality at Clearwater in St. David's and all of Bermuda's beaches. And we're sending a big congratulations to Janai, parent chief, after he soared his way to the silver medal in the triple jump with a new personal best to cap a brilliant showing on his debut at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships in Eugene, Oregon on Friday night. The superb effort booked by parent chief's passage through to the final round as the top qualifier from Flight 2 and ultimately proved good enough to secure the second spot on the podium. Looking at today's weather, we have a high near 83 and a low near 77 degrees. A frontal boundary to our north continues to lift further away, allowing the patchy cloud cover to gradually clear. There will be moderate to strong southwesterly winds, east slightly, and skies begin to brighten today and for Tuesday. Now by midweek, the surge of tropical moisture is poised to advance from the south while a frontal system approaches from the west. We'll see increases of cloud cover, along with plenty of wet weather to follow for the later half of the week, so you might want to break out with umbrellas. That's all for today's Daily Hour News Break. Let's head back to Janelle and Michaela in the studio for today's Daily Focus.
Thanks for that, Leanne. I don't think we've mentioned it on the show, so big props to Janai, parent chief, doing good things out there, and an Olympic hopeful. Hopefully we get to support him in the Olympics happening next month. Thanks so much, Lee, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, Lee.
Bye, guys.
All righty. Yeah, I wish I could jump like that. I mean, that is amazing, man.
I know. I used to want to do track, and it just didn't happen. So.
You know, I said to my wife yesterday, and I think she thought I was crazy. I said to her, the NBA basketball playoff game was on, and I said, you know, I wonder if I'd be retired if I would have stayed on my track. And she looked and she said, "Are you talking about the NBA?" I said, "Yeah." And that was the end of the conversation. That was the end of the conversation. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back with Carla John, our guest for today, diversity and symbolism. Stick with us.
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dendy Town Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants, and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
All right, welcome back to the big show. She's Michaela Ian. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Lindo's, and our friends over at Channel 82, where you can stream this and many other locally produced shows. Without further ado, let's bring on our guest for the day, Carla John. She is a diversity and inclusion, I'm going to say, expert. She's been on the show before, so happy to have her back. Good morning, and oh my goodness, welcome.
Oh, that red and blue. Oh my God. What? Oh, look. Is that a green screen? She did a green, red and blue?
Yes.
Oh,
Too much to enjoy this on this show. So I'm trying to make it real.
You know, we don't use profanity on this show. It's a family show, but man, do I feel like cussing. Well, you know what? We don't like you, but we accept you. We accept you for your fault. We accept you for your faults. Okay. Well, we love you. We love you. Look, she's but
I'm trying to be included.
Yeah. We're an inclusive organization, but some colors we just don't appreciate. And
no.
This time of the year, it's okay to discriminate against red and blue people. All right, I just can't believe the people are charging this nonsense. Look at this. I mean,
the audacity.
Oh, thank you.
Jerry, please don't show up on Friday. Don't show up on Friday. I'm telling telling
exactly.
I just I don't understand it. But you know what? Again, we welcome all kinds of people to the show, even if they're Somerset folks.
Yes.
We have to tolerate them, folks. That's just the culture we're trying to build. But Carla, thank you for doing this. Honestly, thank you for coming back. We have a lot to talk about. Since you last came on, we had the Clarion incident, and obviously there's been so much more. But for those who don't know, if this is the first time watching this show, just remind people of what it is that you actually do.
So I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I work in diversity and inclusion at a college. So my background is I was a teacher in Bermuda for over 7 years. I taught at Cedar Bridge, Port Royal, and Work Academy. And then I went on to do my master's degree in education, and I've worked in different organizations and different groups that have to do with diversity and inclusion, and that's how I ended up here.
Okay.
Awesome. So how did you get into advocating for diversity and inclusion?
Well, initially my goal was to advocate for people with disabilities because I'm hard of hearing. I caught meningitis when I was 2, so I lost my hearing in my right ear. So when I went to do my master's, my intention was to advocate for people with disabilities, which I still do, of course. But I learned how to advocate by doing that. And so when I came out as gay, it was easy to transition because I had those advocacy skills. So that's how it all came about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So do you feel that companies are more into appearing to be diverse and inclusive rather than doing the work to actually be diverse and inclusive?
Yeah, but having been out since the 90s, I've seen a huge difference in how we were supported back then, and being on pride committees and whatnot, and begging companies to please support us or donate in some sort of way so that we could have a march or a parade or any kind of celebration, a one-day celebration. And then juxtapose that against now, where like you go on Twitter and every icon is rainbow, rainbow, rainbow. And for me, at first, it was a little bit confusing. I'm like, oh, is this a gay group? And then I realized it was just marketing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So in that way, I'm like, I don't like it that much. But at the same time, like I said, I've been out since the 90s. I've been to pride parades. And the last time I went to Toronto Pride, it was World Pride, I think. And it was amazing. There was so many giveaways and the banks were all rainbowed out and all these companies. And it felt really like uplifting and supportive. So I can't say anything negative about that because I'm thinking about all the young people who are having their first experience with pride and they see all this like welcoming and support and how they must feel, because I'm older now and I'm a little bit more jaded. So the symbolism isn't that important to me. So I guess that's the way I would answer that.
And I want to ask the audience, what are your thoughts on seeing companies change their logos and to the rainbow colors for the month of June? Like, what are your thoughts on it? And I want to just follow up with that question and your comments with, you know how I feel about symbolism if you've tuned into this show. I think it is marketing PR, and I take your point, Carla, of as I'm not gay, so I can't speak and say whether it's value or not, right? It's not my place, right, to say, well, it's valuable because, in the 90s when you said you came out, you just didn't feel the love. It was a different time. Whereas now people who may be afraid to come out, at least they feel like they have the support. But is it really support? And how do we hold companies accountable in this respect as it relates to diversity, inclusion, and the like? How do we hold them accountable beyond Pride Month, or how do you hold them accountable beyond changing the color of their logo? Because me personally, from my own battles, I don't care for what I refer to as trinkets. I don't care for buying a T-shirt or showing colors. What I care for is, so when was the last time you've reached out to a politician to push for that legislation to be changed? That's what I care about, and I feel like what we saw last year with the Black Lives Matter March, what we see with Pride Month, it's become easy for companies to hide how they, what they truly are.
Oh, yeah. From a company perspective, sometimes they are supportive, but it's hard to tell by just seeing the symbol of pride, seeing a rainbow symbol or seeing a trans flag in someone's window. So that's where it becomes difficult because you don't know how to hold people accountable. And to be honest, we're not really that good at holding anyone accountable unless it's being really publicized. Like, for example, the Chick-fil-A controversy where people didn't want to eat that chicken sandwich because the Chick-fil-A company was donating money to anti-LGBT groups. But then what happened? Nothing. People just went back to eating Chick-fil-A.
The chicken is good. I mean,
I've never had it. I'm like, is it that good that you would like?
I don't eat there. When I travel, I don't eat at Chick-fil-A specifically for that reason. I don't do it.
I mean,
right, but is it that good that you would like say,
no,
these people's rights are not worth it?
I need to see gay people like they're like, man, Chick-fil-A, like seriously, like I mean, it's good to some people. I mean, but again,
must be.
But to your point, I think that's it right there. I mean, I can only use my own experiences, right? But I think to your point is, we do a bad job of holding people accountable. Politicians are like companies. And I think that example is crazy you brought that up because I had that written down to actually use as an example because it's the easiest one. Yeah. But Chick-fil-A is a perfect example of that, like of people not being able to collectively stand together if this is mean. And when you see people in the community that actually will say, look, I am who I am, but at the end of the day, I like me some Chick-fil-A. It just tells you like it's hard to get a collective group to fight together against systematic whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's also conviction, right? Or a lack thereof, really.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, is the chicken that good that you want to like? Someone should give up their rights so that you can have this piece of chicken, and they should donate to anti-LGBT groups and do conversion therapy and pay for all these things that hurt your fellow LGBT citizens. The chicken must be really good. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it could be, and I'm sorry, Kales, but because he brought it up, so I just to bump on that. It's like, okay, we got to use Caitlyn Jenner. Like, who supported Caitlyn Jenner when she came out and whatnot? And the same can be applied to the Republican Party and Caitlyn Jenner, right? Like, this is the party that's probably oppressed you the most, but that's the party you feel represents you. You know what I'm saying? It's like confusion.
Caitlyn Jenner is the first example of a progressive trans person. I'm just going to say it. She is a disaster.
Did you say the worst or the best?
The worst.
Oh, okay. I was like,
the worst. The worst.
I'm sorry. I was just like, I missed that.
God, to have that kind of platform and be that ignorant and stupid, it drives me crazy.
But we have to remember that Caitlyn Jenner transitioned from the point of privilege as a white male, right? Yeah. So her ideas and thoughts and beliefs and experiences are mostly that of a white male. So to expect Caitlyn Jenner to be anything other than what she is impossible.
I get it. It's just super frustrating because it's like you have this amazing platform and you choose to like knock down your fellow trans people because you come from a place of white, rich, privileged man.
Right. And she took up a lot of space. She took up a lot of space from a lot of other I'm going to say Black trans women who were saying a lot of really important things that did need to be heard and needed a platform. And instead of Caitlyn going, you know what, I'm new to this. Let me give my sisters, an opportunity to speak. She didn't. She made it about herself. And now she's running for some office in California. Governor. Oh, lovely.
Don't even get me started on that. I could talk all day. So tell me, do you feel that Bermuda has a lot of work to do regarding diversity and inclusion? And if so, where and how?
Well, Bermuda's different because we're mostly Black country, right? So the diversity and inclusion would look a little bit different. So in terms of equity, Bermuda has a long way to go when you look at the differences in salaries between, let's go to the top. So that would be white men. And I'm not sure, I can't remember whether it's black men or I'm not sure. I can't remember how the layout was, but in terms of equity, we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity, Bermuda has quite a bit. If you go around to other islands, you'll see that Bermuda's not as black as you think it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of inclusion as well, I call it a sausage party sometimes when I look at the government, when they put pictures up of decision-making meetings and whatnot. I'm like, okay, there's one woman there, but is she in the meeting, or is she like, what's going on here? What's her role? You know, I'm really picky. Like, I do the same when I see a group of, a panel of feminists and it's all men. Like, where are the women? Like, I'm always looking, is it inclusive? Is everybody's voice being heard? Like, that's my job. So I think I'm a little bit more sensitive to it than that. But yeah, I think there is a long way to go.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, and I'll say it, tokens. You don't want it to come across as tokens. You want it to be more than just the appearance of people in positions. Yeah.
Yeah, but like last time when Carla and Jackie were on, we were talking about tokens, and I still believe that tokens, it can be beneficial if you're in on it. Like, if you know that, hey, you're the one woman, you have the same power as everyone else. We really need your voice, but we know that we don't have any women. Would you take on that role, right? So it's still a token, right? That's the one woman, and you're hoping that with that person that you look like you're more inclusive, so that you get more people who are either women or who don't look like the rest of the group to come and join you. So I still contend that tokenism can be beneficial if you're in on it.
Okay, let's talk about tolerance, because I've you and I have probably had this talk over the years, and as a Black person, as a Black man in a country that's not been quite friendly to Black men, I don't really see it as a bad thing when I'm excluded. And I'm not into fighting to be included. What I mean by that is, even if you look back at my history with conscription, I was not fighting to be included. I was fighting to be excluded, right? But we live in a time where everyone is fighting for inclusion, it seems, right? And by that, it comes across to some people, like the people who have fought for tolerance have somehow become the intolerant. I was just reading a thread on Twitter this weekend where I guess some guy, I forget the name and I wrote it down, but I'm not even going to try to look now. But basically, Twitter was going at him because he, I guess, financially supported or came out and supported a group that might be, maybe it was the Republicans who are anti-LGBT, right? And people came out and ripped him and like pretty much forget everything else you've done, but you're a bad person. I actually have no issue with a company that does not want to hire me because I'm a Black man. I know that may sound strange to some people, but the reason I have no problem with it is because I'm not interested in being in spaces where I'm not wanted. However, I get the other side of it, because if it were a public organization, a government organization, right? Now you pay taxes, you are part of the system that makes up the government, and they did that, I would have an issue with it. But for a private entity, I have no issue. My question, all that being said, is, have the tolerant become the intolerant? Have they become the bullies? Because people feel like, I saw one gentleman say, I feel like I'm stepping on eggshells because I have a different opinion or oppose certain things. I shouldn't have to agree with this. I don't have to agree with whatever. What are your thoughts on that stuff?
I think I've evolved on tolerance in terms of personal tolerance, and like, if this person tolerates the next person, do they have to accept them? And I used to think, yes, everyone has to be accepted for their whole selves. But now, as I grow older, I understand that tolerance is necessary sometimes to be able to move forward. So in terms of are the tolerant becoming intolerant, I think it's more of a power gain. People who were marginalized, which, we marginalized people. So the people who felt marginalized now feel like they have a little bit of power. And so they're using that power to stop the people who were doing the marginalizing. Now, it might not be in the way that you or I or anyone else feels is the right way, but it's the way that it's being done. So I don't know. People do what they feel is best for them at the time. So yeah.
Indeed.
That's interesting. And Jamal, I love that point of view that you brought up, because it goes back to, Black children being sent to white schools. And it's just like, why do we want a place at a table where we're not wanted? Like, why can't we be accent on our own at our own table?
Well, one of the points about schools and integration is that they thought that because of diversity, just putting these Black students in this white school without any services or support for the Black students who are being removed from their neighborhoods, as well as support for the white students who now have Black students in their classroom, so that they don't say anything ignorant or offensive to the Black students, right? So it wasn't thought of in terms of what's best for the students and how we should do this. It was just like, okay, we were talking about quotas last time. We need this many Black students and this many white students, and we put them together and forget about them. And then at the same time, we're not even taking all the funding that we have for the white schools and making sure that the Black schools are equally resourced.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's go to the audience. If you have any comments or questions for Carla, we'll try to get through as many as possible. Janelle Pereira Edna says, with the popularity of social media, it's hard for a company to go against because they will get dragged. People are more entitled to speak out against the company and boycott, so it's easier for them to go with the flow. Now, thank you for that, Janae, because this is a key point. It's like, are we okay with people putting a rainbow flag even if they don't believe it, just because they don't want to get dragged? Like, again, I'm not into symbolism. For me, I completely understand your point, but for me, I'm into, I'm going to that politician and I'm going to make sure that we're pushing for this until it happens. That's probably, I think the symbolism has made it so easy. So I kind of get like some people are doing it just so they don't get dragged. And then you have the Chick-fil-A's, which Talon Clark is saying, Chick-fil-A is a Christian-owned business, which is why they're not open on Sunday. And to know their belief/religion is to understand their actions. Now, does this excuse, it's one thing not to publicly support. It's another thing to actually go against. Would you agree with two separate things?
I don't have time for Chick-fil-A. I don't have time for their awful beliefs. You can be a Christian. I was raised Christian,
Me too.
I know many Christians. You don't have to be like, I'm Christian and that's why I'm donating money to anti-LGBTQ organizations. That's outrageous. That's absolutely outrageous, because at the end of the day, Jesus hung out with lepers, he hung out with thieves, he hung out with prostitutes, etc. So miss me with that. Like the Christianity excuse, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but I think it was a man, to his
TJ,
point.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, to his point, Chick-fil-A is a privately owned Christian company and they get to do whatever they want to do. And I'm a private citizen, as is everyone else, and we get to do what we want to do. So if we want to boycott Chick-fil-A, we are not obligated to buy chicken from Chick-fil-A. So in that instance, they are absolutely, within their rights, obviously, and they'll continue to do what they're doing. And we can continue to do what we're doing, and we can cancel whoever we want, because that's our right. Just like they cancel us. I can't go anywhere I want, right? I'm canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, right.
I love that you bring that up.
Brantano actually says the real obligation of companies is to treat all people equally. It's therefore inappropriate to display rainbow banners that serve to single certain people out. Interesting. And I mean,
I don't understand.
I don't understand.
I'm gonna go on the back of what she's saying, because there are people that have said that flags are actually divisive, and they are. Like when you think about flags and like somebody put a post on Facebook yesterday that's been circulating for years, right? Religion, race, gender, culture in some respects, all the nationality, they are all divisive mechanisms. A flag is no different, regardless of what it represents. A flag is representing a single entity. When you see a flag of a country, it is representing that. No, how people use it really defines what it's there to do. So I get her point, not necessarily sure I agree, but I think that's the point that she's trying to make.
No, I don't think that displaying a rainbow flag is singling people out. I don't at all.
I don't either. And I've been to places where, especially in Canada, where I've seen the rainbow flag and it makes me feel so comfortable. Like, okay, at least they understand what the flag is and they have it right side up with the red strip on the top. I'm like, okay. And I don't think, oh, everybody in this organization is pro-gay. I just think, okay, they're aware and they understand. That's it. It's not that they're singling me out. It's just they're aware, they understand. I don't expect anything more than that.
Let's go to a few more comments. We're out of time. Amanda Kelly, they sent us to white schools to mold us to think and act like they wanted. If you rebelled, you were in trouble. It definitely wasn't diversity. Diversity should be accepting people without judgment. We don't know how to love unconditionally. Talent Clark just wants to say, I was explaining how they think and feel, and it's because of their beliefs. He was not excusing them at all. Philip Trott says, I still have an issue with Carla's views on tokens being okay if they have power, because in my mind, tokens by definition don't have any power. Yeah, and I would agree with Phil from that perspective. It's like, I don't want to name.
It depends on how you define token.
You're right. I think there are certain people put in place and they accept that, I'm just a face and I'm going to shut up and pay my mortgage while I'm here. I think that's what Phil's referring to. Those appointments, rather than people who may understand the tokens and get in and actually try to change. Problem is that really how it works. Joel Dickinson says, displaying an accessibility sign doesn't indicate only people with disabilities are welcome.
That's my wife.
Perfect analogy.
That's the answer to the flag, Teresa Montano. That's the answer to the flag.
Perfect analogy.
That's my wife. Thank you, wife.
she came right near the head. Sandcat Place says, symbols don't mean a thing. It's how the company treats you that matters. I couldn't care less of the symbol. Is there a black flag up? Is there a KKK flag up? It stands out. So I again, that's where I'm at with it. Carla, before you go, obviously the government of Bermuda has before the courts the bill of same-sex marriage in Bermuda. How do you feel? I mean, you've probably followed the case. I'm just speculating there, but how do you feel that's going to go? And either way, regardless of which way it goes, do you think this defines progress as a collective?
I'll answer the second question first. I think it does define progress as a collective, even that we're going this far and that it's a possibility that we will win. As far as how do I think it's going to go, I'm hopeful that it's going to go well, but at the same time, since 2017, it's been a roller coaster. So I have no expectations that we're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just feel kind of like womp about it. It's just been a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, to be honest, in my opinion. A waste of money.
Yeah, and everyone's time. Like, let people live their lives, get married. 30 people? Bermuda's going through all this for 30 couples who've gotten married. I mean, it's a lot of money.
I could be wrong, but I don't think that the Privy Council is going to rule in the government's favor. I've been wrong before. I've been wrong before, but when you look at history, when you look at similar cases, I don't see that the Privy Council is going to rule in favor of the government of Bermuda. And I just hope that the ruling comes sooner rather than later. In regards to this conversation, I am still always going to be confused about diversity and inclusion, and that's not a dig at anybody. Carla and I have these conversations. She tries to educate me. I've come a long way, folks, but it's not something as cut and dry as most people make it seem, and I need people to understand that. As a Black person, I think very differently from a lot of my peers in terms of like, I don't want to be in spaces where I'm not wanted, but I totally understand. Let me be clear. I completely understand people who want to be in spaces and are prepared to fight for their right to be in those spaces. That said, Carla, as always, you're going to be like a on-call person because things are going to keep happening, and we're going to keep dialing you up to come on and say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and expertise. And to you, your family, your wife, happy Pride Month to you all.
Thank you. Somerset!
Ooh, good God. I was about to say, thank you so much for coming on. And then you just violence.
Let me say before she goes. And this, my friends, is what I meant when I was talking about divisive colors and flags. Goodbye, you cock match bully. Have a great one.
Bye, Carla.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to Carla John. If you enjoyed that conversation, make sure you show us some love, likes, thumbs up. If she made you cry with those colors, make sure you give us that as well. Don't go anywhere. We have a winner from this weekend's trivia, and we have a daily play for Kills before she gives you the inspiration to go about your days. Don't go anywhere.
I have my three children, a 27-year-old and a 11-year-old and a 5-year-old. I have to balance it out. I actually even stopped working Monday to Wednesday just so that I can put in time for the products, and I put in time for my family, because for me, my family comes first over anything. You know I have to run my business so that we can eat and everything, but my children come first. I let them even play a role when I'm making my products. Come on, get up. You can come help me mix it. Come help me put the label on it. So when we talk about inspiring your daughter or your children, I make my children get up there and see what it takes to run a business. Come on, Surrey. This brand, Surrey Shea & Co., is named after you. So you need to help me. You're gonna come, you can do this, put the labels on for me. You can do it. Even my little 4-year-old, I had him do it. Mommy, let me help. So I just let them help, and it teaches them the way.
All right, welcome back. She's Michaela. I'm Jamel. Thanks again to Linda's Medical Health One Communications, all of those who continue to support, as well as Channel 82, where you can watch this and many other locally produced shows. Thanks again to Carla John. Don't forget, if you enjoyed that conversation, show us some love, folks. Diversity and inclusion was the topic of the day. All right, so we had a trivia this weekend, and why are you laughing, Kayla? It's not funny.
Because it was interesting.
But I don't know why people. Not one person thought I was taller than you, which I found quite offensive. Right?
Well, Jamal, I mean, I've been this height since I was 12. So I've been 10 since I was 12.
Well, I'm still growing. And so that said, we did something a little different this weekend, folks. So the question was, how well do you know your daily hour host? And the first was, who is the tallest, Michaela or Jamel? She's got me by 3 inches. Who attended university in Alabama, Leanna or Sherry? It was Sherry. Who is a former school teacher? Actually, that was a trick one. Both Sherry and Larry are former school teachers. And then who grew up in Massachusetts? The answer was Michaela. So the winner of this weekend's was Corlita Davis. So she won the draw. So she'll be getting herself a mug and a $25 gift voucher. So congratulations to, I don't even have the crowd music going. Congratulations to Corlita Davis. Congrats on that. So I'm still growing, folks. So I'm going to catch her. Here's the daily play. Kale's just guessing a famous quote. This is actually very easy. And I think it goes to today, right? Okay. Here we go. I'm Black. I don't feel burdened by it, and I don't think it's a huge responsibility. It's part of who I am. It does not define me. Talk show host, actress, entrepreneur.
Talk show host, actress, entrepreneur. Oprah Winfrey?
She got it.
I love Oprah. When you said it, I was like, this sounds like Oprah, but then I wasn't sure.
Yep, it was Oprah. It was Oprah. Kales, before you give us the daily inspiration, what are your thoughts on today's show from the raft up to Carla? What are your thoughts?
I really love the segment with Carla. I think that we all need to think more about diversity and inclusion, even as Black people, because we have been marginalized for too long. And I believe that we should not be discriminating other people, especially those who are not in the LGBTQ community.
I'll say this much. As far as the early part of the show with the raft up, the government has something on their hands that they probably didn't want. Now they have to develop a strategy and plan on how they're going to deal with it. In reference to Carla, always enjoy the conversations. Obviously, I have very different views on what diversity and inclusion. I don't quite understand it. And, you know, I love to have conversations about things I don't understand so that I can, you know, get more, you know, receive more education and develop more opinions on it. So really grateful to her for that. Any daily inspiration to send us off on our first day of the work week?
I sure do. All right. We generate fears while we sit. We overcome them by action. And that's by Dr. Henry Link.
I like that one. Well, on that note, thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, and Linders, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. She is Michaela Ian. I'm Jamel Hartman. Folks, have a good one.
This is